Okay, let's get right into this. Picture a world completely free of terrorism, no more violent crime. Sounds pretty good, right?
Almost too good to be true. There's always a catch.
Exactly. And the catch here is total surveillance. Every single digital interaction, every private message, maybe even, tracking your thoughts somehow.
Yeah.
Constant monitoring.
A complete loss of privacy.
So that's the stark choice. Absolute safety, guaranteed, but zero privacy. Would you take that deal? Where do you land on that?
It's a deeply uncomfortable question, isn't it? Because safety is such a primal drive. We want to protect ourselves, protect the people we care about.
Of course.
But then there's this other fundamental thing, this need for a private space, an inner life that's just ours. The idea of giving that up entirely, it just feels wrong on some gut level.
Right. Think about it this way. Imagine your family, your friends, totally safe, guaranteed, shielded by this all-seeing system that stops threats before they happen. No more horrific news alerts.
A powerful incentive.
Would you personally hand over everything? Your entire digital life? The messy bits, the searches you wouldn't want anyone to see, the private vents for that guarantee, for everyone else's safety? What's your, breaking point?
And does that trade-off even deliver true safety? Or does living under constant watch change what safety even means? Does it kill creativity, dissent?
Yeah.
Just being, human and messy?
Yeah, I've definitely searched for things online, health stuff, weird theories late at night, maybe vented in a message I regretted later, things I absolutely wouldn't want public.
Mm-hmm.
The thought of that being logged forever, it's unsettling. What about you listening? What parts of your digital life feel intensely private, things you wouldn't want shared?
And isn't it strange how our perspective shifts? A tragedy happens, and the immediate reaction is often, do something, more security, more monitoring.
Yeah, the calls get loud.
But then the second that surveillance might turn towards us, towards our data, the feeling flips completely. Suddenly is, hey, this is an intrusion. Why that whiplash?
It's almost routine now, isn't it? Clearing history, being careful what you type in an email, sort of subconsciously curating your online self.
Like digital housekeeping.
Exactly. Real privacy feels like, a relic. We're just kind of hoping the algorithms miss our little corner.
And is that constant awareness changing us? Are we becoming performers online rather than just being... Does knowing you might be watched stop you exploring certain ideas?
Okay, let's try a scenario. Your neighbor seems okay, keeps to himself, but the system flags him.
Based on what, though? That's the key.
Maybe library books he checked out, or certain groceries he bought, maybe a comment online somewhere, totally taken out of context. An alert pops up. What do? Report him. Just in case.
Or defend his privacy, his right to buy weird groceries or read certain books, and risk being wrong.
It lays bare the problem with algorithms, right? Data without context is dangerous.
Absolutely. How many false positives, how many lives disrupted, maybe ruined because a machine misinterpreted data? It lacks that human understanding.
I heard this story, maybe you've heard it too. A system flagged a guy buying fertilizer, diesel fuel, and pressure cookers.
Okay, yeah, classic bomb-making ingredients on paper.
Right? Alarm bells everywhere. Turned out he was a farmer. Planting season. And making a massive batch of chili for a town barbecue.
Oh, wow. So the context was completely innocent.
Completely missed by the system. It saw a pattern, not a person. And that's terrifying.
And it shows the flaw, right? Algorithms look for anomalies. But what about just being different, eccentric, creative? That can look like an anomaly too. Where's the line between safety and just crushing individuality?
Let's get uncomfortable for a second. If you're leaning towards supporting this kind of surveillance, is it purely about safety? About preventing harm?
Or is there something else mixed in?
Yeah, is there maybe a tiny part that likes the idea of control? Of knowing? Of seeing people you already think are bad getting caught? Is it protection or is it policing? Maybe even a bit of, as Jung might put it, our own shadow wanting order.
That's deep water. But yeah, the desire for order, for control over the other, it's definitely in us. Surveillance can easily tap into that, becoming less about safety and more about enforcing conformity, maybe even our own biases.
You know that Ben Franklin quote about trading liberty for temporary safety, deserving neither?
A classic, very principled.
Sounds great in theory, but then you see the aftermath of a bombing, or you think about a child being harmed. In that raw, visceral moment, how much does essential liberty weigh against preventing that horror?
It's the ultimate tension, isn't it? Our highest ideals versus our deepest fears. That promise of absolute safety is incredibly tempting when you're scared or grieving. But what's the long-term cost to freedom?
Think about the Stasi, East Germany. Their surveillance wasn't fancy AI.
No, it was people, neighbors informing on neighbors.
Exactly, driven by fear, suspicion, the power of knowing secrets. Just a culture of watching. Does that history feel uncomfortably relevant now?
It definitely shows how surveillance can seep into the social fabric, creating distrust everywhere. That breakdown of community is a huge, often overlooked cost.
Okay, take a second, just pause. Right now, what's the one thing, a search, a message, a file in your private digital life you'd be most afraid of being exposed?
Feel that little jolt.
Yeah. Hold on to that feeling, that pit in your stomach. That's the human stake in this game, that vulnerability.
That feeling tells you what's really on the line. It's not abstract theory. It's the intimate, personal stuff, the freedom to be flawed, to explore without fear of judgment.
We do it all the time, right? Scroll social media, judge people instantly based on a curated profile.
Yeah.
One tweet taken wrong.
Snap judgments.
Now imagine the tables turned. You're judged not by your highlights, but by the full, unedited director's cut of your entire digital life. Every dumb search, every fleeting bad thought. How would you hold up?
It exposes that contradiction, doesn't it? We polish our online selves, but desperately want our messy reality kept private. Universal surveillance just blows that boundary away. It forces us to see how contradictory we are.
So here's the brutal choice again. Maybe clearer now. Option A, total privacy, freedom to be unseen. But the risk of random violence, crime, terror, here remains.
The unpredictable world we know now.
Option B, total safety, crime virtually eliminated, but you live under constant, inescapable algorithmic watch. Judged, monitored. Which cage do you pick?
Oof. Cage is the right word. It really forces you to decide what you value more. Is absolute security the ultimate goal, even if it costs autonomy? Or is freedom, with all its risks, just non-negotiable for a life worth living? It's deeply personal.
And isn't it weird? We give so much data to corporations. DNA tests, location tracking, endless stuff for targeted ads or convenience. We just click agree.
Yeah, we trade it pretty freely sometimes.
But the government wants access for security, supposedly to stop horrific things, and we push back hard. What's the real difference in our heads? Is it just trust? Or something else?
It's complex, right? Maybe we accept corporate data use as the price of admission for convenience or connection. But government access feels different. Maybe less accountable, more potential for real power abuse.
Okay, rapid fire. Yes or no? Instinctively, scan all your emails, read all your private DMs, track your location 24/7, turn on your phone mic remotely. What if doing any of those might save one innocent life? Where's your line? Have we maybe already crossed some lines without realizing it?
It forces you to pinpoint the intrusion that feels worst, doesn't it? And weigh that potential life against that specific violation. Everyone's line is probably different. Setting a universal boundary is incredibly hard.
I'll be honest, I feel torn. Part of me is like, get off my lawn. About my data, my thoughts. Fiercely private. But then I see terrible things happen, and another part screams, catch them, stop them, whatever it takes. It's this constant internal battle. Which side wins under total surveillance? Do we lose something vital?
That conflict is the heart of it. We're individuals needing autonomy, and we're members of society wanting safety.
Yeah.
Finding the balance, that's the challenge.
I know a cybersecurity expert, and they told me something chilling once. Said, we built this huge system supposedly for counterterrorism.
Okay.
You know what it's mostly used for day to day? Catching cheating spouses, nailing employees complaining about the boss.
Wow. Mission creep defined.
Right. The noble goal fades, and the tool gets used for, well, pettier things. Control.
That's a huge danger with any powerful tech, especially surveillance. It starts with one justification, then quietly expands, often without anyone noticing, until it's doing things it was never intended for.
And maybe
Yeah.
this is uncomfortable, but maybe the real goal isn't safety. Maybe safety is just the marketing slogan.
The justification we can all get behind.
Yeah. Maybe the deeper drive is control. Predictability. Power.
That definitely forces a more critical look. Who really benefits from everyone being watched? And what happens when that much power is concentrated?
We put our deepest thoughts, our politics, out there online for likes. Performative sharing.
Right.
But the government knowing what brand of cereal we bought, that feels like a terrifying overreach. The contradictions are almost funny if they weren't so serious.
It highlights how selective our privacy concerns can be, maybe. We trade it for social connection, but resist government intrusion because the potential for abuse feels higher or less transparent.
Okay, gut check time. Be honest with yourself, listening right now. When you think about this kind of surveillance, do you mainly picture it watching other people?
The bad guys, the threats.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Do you see yourself as safely outside its gaze, one of the protected, not one of the potentially suspect? That bias is a real blind spot.
It's a natural psychological defense, maybe. It's for them, not me. It lets us support things that might actually affect us because we frame it as necessary for controlling others we fear.
Imagine a climate activist, really passionate. Their private messages get swept up. Maybe there's a clumsy joke in there, something dumb from years ago.
Taken out of context.
Totally. And suddenly that's leaked, weaponized, used to completely discredit their work, their entire movement. Is that justice or just silencing dissent?
It shows exactly how surveillance becomes a tool against those challenging the status quo. The power to expose anything private, relevant or not, is a powerful silencer.
Now flip it. Your perfectly legal online activity, maybe researching a controversial illness, donating to a certain group triggers an algorithm.
Ping, you're on a list.
Suddenly you're the potential threat. How does it feel when the spotlight turns on you, when you're the one misinterpreted?
It really highlights how arbitrary algorithmic judgment can be, and the lack of recourse. How do you argue with an algorithm that's flagged you based on secret rules?
We want to feel safe, right? That feeling is powerful.
So powerful, we might trade actual freedom for just the illusion of security. An illusion may be controlled by the watchers.
Yeah. And look at places with heavy surveillance historically. It doesn't create saints. It creates self-censorship. People start performing conformity.
Afraid to even think differently.
Is that the kind of safety we want, where individuality just fades away in the name of security theater?
That chilling effect is real. When you think you're being watched, you're less likely to question things, take risks, be creative. It stifles the human spirit.
Here's a twist. Maybe the biggest threat isn't the terrorist or the criminal. Maybe it's the sheer unprecedented power to watch, analyze, predict, concentrated in the hands of states and corporations.
That shifts the focus, doesn't it? From external threats to the power structure itself. The watcher becomes the potential danger.
And what does it do to your sense of self? Knowing you're constantly being rated, sorted, reduced to data points by some hidden system. Does it chip away at your feeling of being a unique, spontaneous person? Does it, as Nietzsche might worry, just make us predictable cogs?
That constant judgment can lead to self-surveillance, right? You start policing your own thoughts. It absolutely impacts identity, makes it harder to be authentic, to grow.
Okay, a quiet moment. Honestly. Do you really think you're exempt? That universal surveillance wouldn't touch your life somehow? That you've got nothing to worry about?
It's crucial to challenge that assumption. It's easy to think it's for other people, but a universal system, by definition, includes everyone.
Think about this. Your personal data. It's like the digital footprint of your soul.
Wow, yeah.
And we give it away so easily for convenience, discounts, whatever. What value are we actually putting on it? Are we trading something truly invaluable for basically nothing?
That really reframes it. It's not just data, it's pieces of us, and we're letting them be collected and used, often without really knowing the consequences.
So let's circle back. That first question. Universal surveillance, absolute safety, total loss of privacy. Knowing the flaws, the risks, the mission creep, the chilling effect. Has your answer changed? Does the price seem higher now?
It almost certainly has to feel more complex, right? The initial appeal of safety might still be there, but the downsides, the erosion of freedom, feel much heavier now. It's harder to give a quick yes or no.
And that complexity is the point. This isn't simple. If you know someone who thinks it is, share this deep dive with them. Let's try and get beyond the easy answers.
Absolutely. More conversation, more critical thinking is essential. These aren't small decisions. They shape the kind of society we live in.
What if? What if this whole obsession with surveillance isn't really about stopping crime? What if it's deeper, like a societal fear of chaos, of the unpredictable nature of people? And technology is just the latest attempt to impose order on something fundamentally wild.
That's a fascinating, almost existential question. Are we chasing real security or just trying to eliminate all uncertainty, which might be impossible and maybe even undesirable for human flourishing? What is life without some risk, some unpredictability?
And compare the harms. What's worse, ultimately? The possibility of random bad acts in a free society. Or the constant psychological weight, the potential for systemic misjudgment under total surveillance.
It's a tough comparison. Tangible harm versus pervasive, less visible psychological and social harm. There's no easy scale to weigh those on.
We treat privacy like those terms and conditions nobody reads.
Click agree and hope for the best.
Yeah, we just assume it's there, all right, until suddenly it's gone. And maybe by then it's too late to get it back.
That passivity is dangerous. We might be sleepwalking into a future we didn't consciously choose, just by accepting the defaults.
Imagine someone watching you, right now, not data, but you, through your camera, seeing your reactions as you listen to this. Does that thought make you feel safer, protected, or just watched, creeped out?
It makes it visceral, doesn't it? Moves it from abstract data to direct observation. That power imbalance feels stark. It raises fundamental questions about dignity, autonomy.
Quick exercise. 3 primal thoughts or actions from today, things you wouldn't want logged. Got 'em.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who decides if those are okay or suspicious? You. Or the algorithm.
Yeah, that brings it right down to the everyday. Even mundane things could be misinterpreted by opaque rules we don't understand or control.
And maybe if you genuinely think you have nothing to hide, that isn't proof of innocence. Maybe it means you've already adapted, you're already performing.
That true freedom includes the right to hide things, the right to be imperfect, unseen.
Exactly. Maybe perfect compliance isn't freedom. Maybe it's the opposite.
That's a really provocative thought. It flips the nothing to hide argument completely on its head. Suggests that wanting privacy is normal, even necessary for authenticity.
I heard this story, someone wrongly flagged. They said the worst part wasn't being accused. It was how the system twisted everything. Private jokes, emails to family, into evidence.
Erasing context, erasing intent.
Yeah. Reducing a whole life to suspicious data points. Stripping away the humanity.
It shows the immense power of narrative control that these systems have. They don't just collect data, they interpret it, often wrongly, and that interpretation can have devastating consequences.
We use the tech every day. Smart speakers, apps tracking us. We know they collect data. Are we? Are we basically building the surveillance state ourselves just by seeking convenience? Are we accomplices?
That's the uncomfortable question of complicity, isn't it? Our choices, our desire for easy tech might be paving the road to a future we claim we don't want. It's an ethical tightrope.
And that nothing to hide, nothing to fear line, it ignores history completely. People were persecuted, killed for things later seen as normal, even heroic.
Right. Conformity dictates what's acceptable to hide, and that standard changes. What happens when today's acceptable thought becomes tomorrow's deviant pattern under surveillance?
Here's a really chilling idea. Tyranny doesn't always need a villain. Oppressive surveillance can just emerge from efficiency goals, data analysis, public apathy.
Built quietly, piece by piece, without a big announcement.
The cage gets built in the background, fueled by convenience and a misplaced faith in tech, not necessarily by evil intent.
It warns us that good intentions aren't enough. We need constant vigilance about the consequences of these systems, not just the stated goals. Efficiency isn't the only value.
And who writes these algorithms anyway? Who decides what's suspicious? Do we even know? Are we okay trusting these invisible, often unaccountable judges?
That lack of transparency and accountability is critical. We're handing over immense power to define normalcy, to categorize people, often without knowing the rules or who made them. That demands scrutiny.
I'll admit something. Years ago, some surveillance seemed appealing. Stop the bad guys, right? But then I realized, part of me maybe liked the idea of knowing secrets. That little bit of power, that realization, seeing that flicker in myself, that scared me more than any external threat.
That's incredibly honest. And it shows how easily the allure of surveillance can tap into our own less than noble impulses. Curiosity, maybe even a desire for control blurring the lines around privacy.
Someone wise once said tyranny often arrives quietly. Not with a bang, but with forms, cameras, databases, algorithms, disguised as convenience, as security. We need to remember that.
It's a powerful warning. The erosion of freedom can be gradual, incremental, masked by things that seem helpful or harmless in the moment. We need to watch for that slow creep.
What's the long game here? Living under constant potential watch. It does more than just invade privacy. It chills dissent, right? Encourages conformity, erodes trust. It's like a low-grade fever-weakening society.
Exactly. It impacts innovation, critical thinking, social bonds. A society constantly looking over its shoulder isn't a healthy or dynamic one. It breeds fear and suspicion.
Have you ever hesitated, just for a second, before typing a search, sending a message, worried how it might look?
That tiny hesitation.
Yeah, that's the system already working, inside your head. Self-surveillance.
It's insidious. The control doesn't even need to be overt. The potential for being watched is enough to change behavior, to limit our own freedom of thought and expression.
Maybe this isn't good versus evil. Maybe it's just a messy collision. Power, fear, convenience, control, risk, all tangled up. We're just stuck in the middle trying to figure it out.
I think acknowledging that complexity is key. There are no easy heroes or villains here. It's about navigating competing values,
Yeah.
difficult trade-offs with our eyes open.
And consider this. Are you really the one deciding the balance between safety and freedom? Or are you maybe just becoming another data point? Mined, analyzed, sorted by systems you don't control or even understand.
That really challenges our sense of agency, doesn't it? Suggests we might be more subject to these forces than we are shapers of them. It's a humbling, maybe alarming thought.
If you knew everything you did online, every thought you typed, was judged against some shifting invisible standard of acceptable, how would that change you? Could your authentic self even survive that pressure?
It raises profound questions about identity. Would we all just become more cautious, more curated versions of ourselves, losing spontaneity, maybe losing the courage to be different?
Let's just put it out there. Brutal honesty. For some people, maybe part of the appeal of surveillance is darker, seeing others exposed, controlled, punished. That little bit of schadenfreude, maybe?
It's uncomfortable to consider, but possibly true for some. A desire for order that includes seeing those deemed out of line brought down, reinforcing one's own sense of righteousness or security.
Okay, last one. Deeply personal. Your own child. Flagged by the system. Pre-criminal deviant thought patterns. What do? Trust the data. Or trust your kid, your gut. Where does your faith lie?
That hits hard. It forces the abstract into the most personal space imaginable. It pits cold data against love, intuition, human connection. It questions whether we'd sacrifice our own judgment to the machine.
Your silence on this, and the expansion of surveillance, it's not neutral. It's a quiet vote. A vote for the cage.
That's a stark way to put it, but it underlines the importance of engagement. Apathy or silence in the face of such profound change can easily be taken as consent, allowing things to move forward without challenge.
Fast forward 20 years. What story will you tell future generations about why we let this happen or why we pushed back? What will your answer be?
It really frames today's choices in a historical context. What legacy are we creating? Will they see us as naive, complicit, or courageous?
Maybe. Maybe a truly safe society isn't one that eliminates risk through watching everyone. Maybe it's one where we trust each other enough to navigate risk together with freedom.
That's a different vision entirely, isn't it? Safety through trust and autonomy, not through control and suspicion. It prioritizes human connection and liberty over technological enforcement.
I use this tech. I click agree, my data's in the system, I'm part of it. Complicit in a way, that's unsettling. It's something I grapple with.
It's a shared dilemma. We're all entangled in these systems to some degree. Acknowledging our own participation is part of the honest conversation we need to have.
Look, there are no easy answers here. None. But maybe the first step is just admitting how complex this is. Holding that tension between safety and freedom. Talking about it. Honestly.
Exactly. Starting with acknowledging the complexity, the trade-offs, the lack of simple solutions, that's the necessary ground for any meaningful progress or understanding.
Under that constant algorithmic gaze, who are you really? You risk becoming just your data profile. A summary. The messy, beautiful, complicated, changing human part. It gets lost.
That's the ultimate reductionism, isn't it? Flattening human richness into data. We lose sight of potential, of context, of everything that makes us more than just predictable patterns.
Freedom isn't just about not being at risk. It's about having meaningful choices.
Yep.
And surveillance, however subtly, it steals those choices. One click, one hesitation at a time.
A powerful final thought. It reframes freedom around agency and choice and positions surveillance as a direct threat to that core human need.
Pause. If this felt like a lot, if it's swirling around, hit rewind. Listen again. Sometimes that feeling of being overwhelmed is where real thinking starts.
Discomfort can be a catalyst for deeper understanding. Don't shy away from it.
Share this. Talk about it, even if you're more confused now than before. Because maybe admitting we're confused is the most honest place to begin this conversation.
Absolutely. Keep the conversation going. It's too important to ignore.
This is the deep dive. We hold up the mirror. We amplify the tough questions about safety, freedom, control. Keep thinking about it.
Think deeply about it.